to another DJ Football. He is the NFL Network's Daniel Jeremiah. I am Ryan Brown. You can follow him on Twitter at Move the Sticks. At Move the Sticks is where you follow him. You see him on the NFL Network. DJ, what is up, man? How are you?
I'm doing great, man. It started to cool off a little bit, so I'm getting a little bit of that fall football feeling. So that's nice. And I've had back-to-back roadies, so I've been traveling on Saturdays with the Chargers. So this Saturday I'm home. So I'm excited to have a college football Saturday for the first time in a few weeks.
Yeah, so Nashville and Minneapolis for you. And, of course, in true Chargers fashion, they go to the last play every single week.
Always.
That's all you ever get.
Three weeks in a row.
Yep.
It's crazy. I don't know what it's like. I don't know what it's like to fill. I just don't. I don't know what it's like to be like, geez, we still have 8 minutes left in this game. We got to go big picture, I guess. It's a 3-touchdown game. Like, don't even know what that's like.
I know. I mean, part of that is fun.
You on the other hand, got to shut that one down pretty early. Last week.
Oh, I watched every play. Don't you worry. I watched every single play. Yeah. I wanted to go for the record. I was hoping to get the record.
They could have got the 3 and got the record, but I was I know you have the stuff in order what we're going to get to, but I'll go off script here. But
go off script.
The takeaway I had on that game, first of all, was if you're like, I think about if you've had a terrible day at work, and everybody can relate to that. You've had a bad day. You're on your way home. You call your wife, and you're like, man, it was awful. It's just an awful day. And you get home, and she surprised you with your favorite dinner. And then, maybe there's you guys have a movie that you love, and she's got that all queued up for you. And so, we're going to kick save a really bad day. It's just a thoughtful thing to do. I wonder if Mrs. Hackett, when Nathaniel Hackett walked through that door after just, Zach Wilson can't play, we can't get a first down. I mean, this is a nightmare. He gets in, she's got a nice steak. She's angled the kitchen table towards the television, and she has the Broncos-Dolphins game all TiVo'd up, just ready to start. And he just cheered him right up.
Yeah, there's only one game I want you to watch, honey. I know you've had a bad day. You lost to the Patriots. But I can cheer you up. It's a team in your division. You're going to have to cheer for a team within your division, but I think you're going to like this.
That's
really, really do.
You're going to enjoy it. You're going to really enjoy this.
Let me ask you this. We're going to talk about some of the games, but you were at an NFL stadium at the same time that game is going on. When you start seeing that score on the scoreboard, what is the reaction when you're like, wow, they're up 42-13. Oh my gosh, they're in the 60s. Oh my gosh, they're 70. They're up 70-20. I mean, what is the reaction? You don't ever see this.
Well, they got to 35 so fast. And so that I was seeing it I was following it. I always have the scores up on my computer.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not following it closely. You're calling the game, but you keep an eye on them. And it was definitely a double take. Wait, is that second quarter or whatever? So then I would angle the computer towards Matt Money Smith, my play-by-play guy with the Chargers, and show him. And he just kind of with his eyeballs. But then they put it up on the screen. They were rolling the scores. I think it was at halftime. And they're just rolling the scores on the screen. And everybody's, eating whatever. And all of a sudden that one came out. You heard an audible gasp followed by laughter. You could hear the laughter in Minneapolis. It was definitely something. It registered. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. We're going to look at a lot of games that happened over the weekend and look ahead till next weekend. But since we're dancing all around it, let's go ahead and hit our first topic. The show presented by MyBookie.ag. Code next round at MyBookie.ag. This week and this week only, you get 110% sign-on bonus. So your initial deposit, they're going to bonus you 110%. It is yours and yours forever. Play it once and win. You never lose it. They're at MyBookie.ag. Code next round at MyBookie.ag. Look, I mean, we are 3 games in. So this question is way too early to be definitive. But is there a chance this is the best offense in the history of the NFL this year?
Yeah, that's a strong question coming off a 70-point game, so I think it's worth asking. I put it this way. The best ones that I've seen, the time I've been old enough to really understand it and pay attention to it, I just jotted these down. To me, the first one would have been going back to Minnesota with Moss in his early years with Chris Carter. It was similar, and I've compared this offense to that offense because obviously different body types. But Tyreek Hill is this generation's Randy Moss, where he's just faster than everybody else on the field, and nobody can do anything about it. So I would put some similarities there with that Minnesota offense. The ironic thing is, so you have Tyreek Hill has played obviously in Miami. We'll put him on this list. His Kansas City offense is at their height is pretty spectacular. And then I would say the Randy Moss on the Patriots would be the other one. So you're talking
There's a
about
common denominator. There's a common denominator on a couple of those. Yeah.
You have the best receiver on the planet on both
Yeah.
those teams. And then, gosh, what was the last one I would say just during my time would be early on in my, I came into the NFL right after this run, but would have been the Rams, because, and there's some similarities with the Dolphins. Greatest show on turf, because that was kind of, it was a little revolutionary the way they were doing it. I mean, they were, all the shifts and motions, they kind of introduced that whole thing, and they were getting guys running free all over the place, basketball on turf. So, or football on grass. Basketball on grass. What's that phrase, Ryan? Help me out with that. Basketball on grass.
Turf. I think you had it right. You're good.
Okay, dance around it. But 3 games, I can't say they're the greatest of all time. There's not enough. There's not enough sample size. But I think that those are the conversations that come up with those offenses. Is there anybody that I'm missing? Any offense that I'm missing in there?
None jump to mind. When I was growing up, the Bill Walsh 49ers offenses were revolutionary. And then George Seifert,
that was efficiency. Like there's a difference. There's a difference of like, holy crap, they're going to score from anywhere.
And I know as a lifelong Dolphins fans, the OK gun in Buffalo worried me a lot when you had, Andre Reed, Jim Kelly, Thurman Thomas, Keith McKellar, the Jacksonville State University product that tied in.
James Lofton was on a couple of those
Lofton.
Teams, right?
Yeah. I mean, those were really, really good offenses there. Don Beebe. You remember Don Beebe? Yes. So, there have been a lot of them. This one has a lot of balance. I mean, they are running the ball better this year, and they certainly did Sunday. They did everything well Sunday, but they're without Jeff Wilson right now. Raheem Mostert has been really, really good. He's added some weight, but he hasn't lost speed. A-Chain has been a remarkable rookie.
A-Chan. Did you see he changed that now?
A-Chan.
Yeah, he came out this week. I just did a whole thing on this on the podcast because it's a travesty, because now it's everybody's called him A-Chain forever. After the 200-yard game, he goes, "No, I want to be called A-Chan." And I'm like, you know what? It's a bummer, because I had it all queued up for the podcast today, because he goes for 200, and I had the Quad City DJs come on, ride A-Chain and ride it. Woo, woo. I had changed all the lyrics. I was ready to roll. And then now with A-Chan, it doesn't work. The bit doesn't work.
I will call him anything he wants me to call him. He has been tremendous as a rookie. Yes, he's been tremendous as a rookie. So fast. That's what Mike McDaniel wants in that offense, is speed. And he's got track speed. I mean, that's what they drafted. They drafted him because of his speed out of Texas A&M.
Yeah, and the thing that works hand in hand is when you have the speed on the outside that they have with Tyreek and with Waddle, that's going to create space. So how do you want to attack space? You want to attack space with more speed. So they expand you with their outside speed. Now there's less to navigate for when you want to run the football. So it's really a tracks team. It's really beautiful how it's all come together. And Tua's on his way to, he's the front runner right now, I would have to say, for the MVP, the way he's played through the first 3 weeks.
Yeah, I would have to say that. But did you realize that he doesn't even lead the league in passing yardage? I will test your NFL brain. Do you know who leads the league in passing yardage?
I will say Herbert's got to be way up there, coming off of a
way up there
game.
Yeah,
and then I would say CJ Stroud might be sneakily up there pretty high too.
I think he's number 4, if I am not mistaken. I will pull this up to confirm, but I was looking at it last night when I was getting ready for this. I think it is Kirk Cousins. Does that surprise you?
Oh yeah, no, that wouldn't surprise me. I just seen him last week. I know he threw over 300 again last week. So, and Jefferson goes off every week. Jefferson, how about that? He missed it by 1 yard. No receiver in NFL history has gone $150 in each of the first 3 games to start a season. He went, he got the 149 in week 3 and missed it by a yard.
So Kirk Cousins, you were all around it. 1,075 yards so far this year. Tua with 1,024. To be fair with Tua, he didn't play the entire fourth quarter, so he missed an entire quarter, and he could have probably thrown for 300 yards that one quarter. Justin Herbert, 939. Matt Stafford after last night, 910. And CJ Stroud, 906. That's your quarterbacks that are over 900 yards. So
I think that Stroud's the most. Yeah, but I think Stroud would be the one that's the biggest eye grabber there, attention grabber.
Yep, I would agree.
With his name being on that list. Hasn't turned the ball over, hasn't thrown a pick.
I know. I know. Save it. I got to get over here. Save it. We're going
Oh,
right
I
there.
know. I
Number
see. Oh,
3.
he's a
That's
rookie?
CJ Stroud.
Question mark.
He's
Okay.
a rookie.
All right.
CJ Stroud is.
Nice. Nice.
So Buffalo and Miami play this weekend, and you did
Yeah.
your AFC power rankings. You can do your NFC at the end of this week. We are not going to do the entire top 5 of the AFC, but I think it's pretty easy to say those 2 teams plus probably Kansas City would represent the top of the AFC right now.
No, I think that's fair. I think it's fairly obvious. And I think Buffalo from that week 1, it looks more and more like what we had said. I think they probably more lost that game than the Jets really won it. With Josh Allen turned the ball over as many times as he did. Now Josh Allen's playing much better. The defense has been lights out. Sean McDermott kind of taking that thing back over, and they're playing great. Even with, Tremaine Edmonds leaves in free agency, you can make a case they're playing better without him. Bernard's played really, really well in that spot. So the Bills are rolling there. The Dolphins we just talked about, we know what they bring to the table, and the Chiefs have kind of, I don't want to say that they're already on cruise control, but you just pencil in 12. You start with 12 wins with them. You see how many above that they'll end up getting, but I don't see them winning anything less than 12 games.
There were some surprises in this past week, none bigger, and I felt like an idiot because we talked about Dallas last week, and I sit here and say, boy, it could not have been a more favorable start for them. They get both New York teams in Arizona, and then they go out and lose to Arizona. What happened to Dallas?
Well, first of all, I issued a formal apology to the Arizona Cardinals and their organization because I thought this was a foregone conclusion. They were going to wrap up the first overall pick. They were not going to be competitive. Their roster is brutal. They were playing really hard for Jonathan Gannon. And I think Jonathan Gannon, coming from Philadelphia, had familiarity there with Dallas. That probably helped some as well. But, I could also say if Dallas could finish drives, it wouldn't have been a problem. They just have not been good in the red zone offensively this season. That's been kind of their Achilles heel, and it caught up to them on this one. So, it goes to remind you, and there's a reason why these survivor pools where people, it seems like it should be pretty easy. And then most of those things reset after 4 or 5 weeks because it's just such a hard thing to predict week to week in this league. And they didn't show up. They didn't play clean game. And now, we'll see how the Diggs thing impacts them going throughout the year, but that's a big loss for their defense as well.
Tough loss. One of the top defenders, obviously, at the corner. In the NFL, Arizona is a hair away from being 2-1. I mean, they could have very easily beaten the Commanders in week 1.
And I was looking up some numbers on them. Like, it's interesting. They are defensively, I think they were dead last in quarterback hits, but they're like 7th in sacks. Yeah. So, in other words, you're making it count. You don't have the talent and the skill to be in these positions a lot, but when you are in those positions, you're capitalizing, you're making it count. Just one small statistic there. But I think that kind of justifies how they're competitive like this. They are, they're not very talented. They have a lot of holes on this roster, but they play really, really hard. They're maximizing what they have.
We are going to get to one of the other big surprises, Jacksonville and Houston, in just a little bit. But before we do that, let's talk about Indianapolis beating Baltimore in Baltimore 22-19 with a backup quarterback. Now, I don't think Gardner Minshew is your garden variety backup quarterback. This guy has a lot of reps. He's started a lot of games, and he played like a starter for them. Surprising outcome, though, for Indianapolis to move to 2-1 and give Baltimore their first loss.
Yeah, Baltimore was missing 7 starters, so they were a little shorthanded there. But still, that's a tough place to go in and play. It's a real rivalry there, especially for the fans in that city. I think, to me, going back through that game, what stood out to me is the Indy front is really good. Kwity Paye has turned into a really good player for them. He's got sacks in each of the first 3 games. All across the front, they're physical, they're long and fast. They are a team that's under Chris Ballard as the general manager is very traits based. They're very traits obsessed. So you'll see the longest, rangiest, fastest guys. Their draft class this last year was like off the charts in terms of the athleticism score that they had. So they're fast, they're physical, they play hard. And Minshew, like you said, is he's like we would say like a 4A player in baseball. He's better than a AAA player. He's not quite a major leaguer. Like he's better than a backup, but he's not somebody you really want starting all the time. He's kind of in that in between level there. And he didn't play great, but they were able to get a win. It's a tough physical team. Which by the way, I had another point on that one. I was going to hit you and give you a question on this.
Okay.
If you look at the balance of power in the Big Ten. That it was in Ohio State's favor for so long, and then Michigan has taken this thing over the last couple of years. Is it a coincidence that those Ohio State teams, which was the Bosa brothers, Chase Young, defensive lineman after defensive lineman after defensive lineman, now you look up over the last few years, you watch games on Sundays, you know which college has the most NFL sacks right now through 3 weeks of the season? It's Michigan. It's Michigan. You've got Aiden Hutchinson. Aiden Hutchinson. You've got Rashawn Gary. You've got Kwity Paye, who we just talked about. Dana with it. They've kind of quietly done a better job with defensive linemen over the last few years than Ohio State has.
Yeah. So you can look to the NFL and see maybe why the tide has turned on the collegiate.
That's what I'm saying. You kind of points back, and you can kind of look at it and say, oh, wait a second. There's a reason why they've got this thing turned around in Michigan.
Ravens Browns, that has become a really fascinating division now. The Ravens look like the class of that division. The Browns are 2-1. Those two teams play in Cleveland. All of a sudden, the Steelers look more competent. I saw you tweet about the play of Kenny Pickett Sunday night, how much more competent he looks. That has become, and then Cincinnati was clinging to life. They get the win on Monday night. Boy, it's always an interesting division, the AFC Central. But I think this weekend, the way the Steelers just played, and now with Ravens and Browns playing one another Sunday, kind of a fascinating spot in that division.
Yeah, it is. And look, Kenny Pickett, we talked about him previously. It did not look pretty early on, but I didn't think he was playing with a lot of sureness, a lot of confidence, just letting it rip, playing aggressive, using his legs. He did all those things in the game the other night. And I don't think the bar is super high for him. Like, their defense is really good. So they don't need him to play at some elite level to go win ball games. He plays like he did the other night. They'll be a playoff team, because the defense is good enough. Just be aggressive, make a couple big plays, which he did. The big home run ball to Calvin Austin down the field, taking off and running, making some things happen. And then, it was interesting. I was looking at the Browns, going through their tape, and Deshaun Watson played in kind of a spread and shred offense at Clemson. Just catch, rock, and throw from the gun. He goes to Houston. They use him the exact same way. He's wildly successful. Everything obviously takes place. He misses time. He just has not looked comfortable at all in Kevin Stefanski's offense with Nick Chubb and that offensive line and that system. A lot of under center, even when you're in the gun, play action, a lot of play action stuff. So I'm watching this game, Deshaun Watson, one of his best games that he's played, and I'm just kind of charting it, keeping notes, and I'm like, man, it feels like they're using it a little bit more with him just in the gun, no play action. And I'm like, he's having all the success. And they'd go under center, it'd be a sack. And then he'd be in the gun, it'd be play action. He'd throw the ball away, gun, play action, sack. So I'm like, I got to pull these numbers up. So I go through, and through PFF, you can kind of pull all this stuff up. In the non-play action pass this last week, he was 18 for 22 with a drop as well. So it should have been 19 for 22, like 178 yards, something like that. No sacks, a touchdown, no picks. And then when he's on play action, he was like 7 of 15, 8 of 15, had a touchdown, but not as many yards, not much yards, took 3 sacks. I'm like, okay, maybe now with the Nick Chubb injury, maybe a little bit of a good thing that could come out of that is they'll start using Deshaun Watson where he's comfortable. Get him in the gun and let him, catch, rock, and throw.
Yeah, it's interesting. Really good insight there. And on Pittsburgh, I wanted to bring up too, one thing that seems to have helped Pickett, he's got that really, it seems like anyway, a really good chemistry with Freiermuth right now as the tight end. He's really good tight end. Seems like anytime the play's breaking down, he's able to find him.
Yeah, I thought his eyes were working well too. He was getting through his progressions pretty quickly. Their offensive line, I'm curious to see how long before they kind of make some tweaks and adjustments there. They've got some young, talented players that haven't, Broderick Jones, that they haven't totally let get going yet. Dan Moore still out there playing at left tackle. We'll see how long that lasts. But I left that game thinking, okay, that was kind of the Steelers team I thought that we would see this year.
He is Daniel Jeremiah at his DJ Football. He's with the NFL Network at Move the Sticks on Twitter. The show presented by MyBookie.ag. Code next round at MyBookie.ag and get that sign-on bonus up to, or actually 110%, not up to 110% of your initial deposit there, 110% sign-on bonus. You can use it right away there at MyBookie.ag. That's when you use code next round at MyBookie.ag. If you need some advice on some games to play there, Lance'sLock.com is the place to go. LT has been red hot in football. He's got single day packages, weekly packages, monthly packages, full season packages right there at Lance'sLock.com, Lance'sLock.com, and MyBookie.ag, code next round. All right, up next, the 3%ers. It's really 2.5%.
Wait, stop. I think I want to tell you if I figured this out because I've been staring at the 3%. I don't know what it is. You didn't tell me what it is.
I did tell you
Is
what it
this
is.
3%? Is this 3% of the teams that start 0-3 make the playoffs?
Yep.
Is that what that is?
And it's really
All right.
2.5% since expansion.
Okay.
2.5%. So none of these teams are going to recover, are they? You just saw one of them, Minnesota. Denver is 0-3 after their thrashing by Miami. Chicago is a dismal 0-3. Carolina is an 0-3 with a hurt quarterback. Minnesota would be the only one that would stand any sort of chance here. Did you see anything out of the Vikings that says they can at least turn this around enough to compete for their division and make the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, there's just talent offensively. The offensive line is not very good. Kirk Cousins, I mean, and I know he's getting a lot of grief for the interception late in the game, but he was under constant duress. The Chargers hit him the entire game. And Justin Jefferson's not somebody that's similar to Tyreek Hill, where it's just, I don't know what you do. I don't know how you slow him down. I don't know how you stop him. They couldn't. So they're going to score points with that. Even with some of their issues up front, they'll get some guys back. Garrett Bradbury didn't play in that game. They'll get a little bit healthier on the front. Defensively, they're not equipped to play the way Brian Flores wants to play. I mean, they blitzed getting off the bus. It was like one of the highest blitz percentage games, zero coverage games that we've seen like the last decade. So I think he's going to have to adjust that a little bit. I don't think he has the corners to hold up. I mean, Keenan Allen went 18 for 215 in that game. So I think they're going to be in a lot of shootout type games, but I think the offense is good enough that they'll hang around. I don't necessarily know that they'll get to the postseason, but they're clearly way above everybody else that's in that 0-3 group right now.
Yeah, Chicago in that same division is just so bad. I don't know if you buy into QBR. It is a tough watch. I don't know if you buy into QBR. If I ask right now, worst QBR in the NFL, everyone watching would say Zach Wilson. They would all be wrong. Mm-hmm. The answer is Justin Fields. And it is just, you're right. It's a tough watch. You cannot watch them. It is a broken team right now.
Yeah, I would equate those together in that on Monday, we have our podcast that we do, and we have to go through the top games, and we want to be able to touch on the other games, even if we're not going to do a deep dive. And those are the two teams that I just woke up and I was like, I can't watch the Bears offense. I can't watch the Jets offense. I just can't do that to myself. I want to start my week off right. I don't want to get in a bad mood. I don't want to lose my appetite. It's just so hard to watch, man. Completions should not be that hard to come by.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, and it's been a mess for them. Obviously, they lost a coordinator in a situation that is still ongoing. Justin Fields was openly critical and tried to backtrack it, but the words had already been said. He's basically was told in the offseason, don't run as much. And I don't understand why you would have watched him at Ohio State, drafted him, and then ever tell him not to run. What did you think you were getting in Justin Fields?
That was his superpower. I mean, that's what he does. And that's why you should build a team, kind of build a bully, as they like to say, and just load up on offensive linemen and tight ends and say, that's what we're going to do. We're going to try and bludgeon you with the run. And every now and then we'll be able to work off that, take a deep play action. We're going to have wide open dudes down the field. But to ask him to just kind of sit back there, sift and sort and make reads and throws, that's not who he is.
Yeah. It really makes no sense. It absolutely makes no sense the way we're trying to use him, and their team is just really, really bad. They could be first.
They could be picking first and second, when it's all said and done. They could have a couple. Think about that. So think about how you could change your franchise. Let's just scrimmage it out real quick. You could say, okay, if you picked 1 and 2, you could take Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. Wow, you've really changed your offense. But what if you take Caleb 1? And then, let's assume, for discussion's sake, very, very early in the process, that everybody wants to come up for the number 2 quarterbacks. North Carolina kid's very, very talented. So Drake May, does that fetch you a huge return? There's other teams. Arizona's could have 2 picks in the top 10. Is it possible you're Chicago, you could pick 1 and you could convince Arizona to give you their 2 top 10 picks to come up to take the second quarterback? You could have 3 picks in the top 10 when this thing's all said and done.
So, but and you're right about that, but here's the drawback on that, because it was not too long ago, the Dolphins, as a lifelong Dolphins fan, I tried to never bring them up on this show. They had 3 first-round picks. Yeah. And if memory serves, they went Waddle, Austin Jackson, and Noah Igbenogany. Yeah.
Correct.
I think those were the 3.
One out of 3. 1 out of 3.
And that's the
1.5
thing.
out of 3 if you want to give
1.5.
Austin.
Yeah, Austin Jackson's
Yeah.
still playing. Knowing
Yeah.
McNogany is playing for the Cowboys now. But that's the point. Like, you look, how many first round draft picks live up to their potential? I think in a normal draft, if you get half of them, that's probably above the norm, wouldn't you say?
Mhm. Yeah, but I mean, we also have in recent history the when you look at the Jets, and obviously the quarterback has masked the rest of the talent. But when you get Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson in the top 10, turn
Yep,
around,
they
trade
nailed it.
back up, and you get Jermaine Johnson, then you take Breece Hall. Like, those are their first
Yeah.
4 picks in that draft. You changed now that's a numbers game. Now you got talent and
Right.
numbers. Theoretically, you could change it if you had the quarterback not get hurt
Yep.
4 plays into the season.
Well, it's true. Yeah, I mean, that's the other factor. But
That's
I
the
mean,
catch.
ultimately, you've got to draft well. I mean, that goes without saying. But
Yeah.
my point is, you're playing an odds game. If you're going to draft 3 first rounders, you are going to have to be really good, because the
Yeah.
odds tell you not all 3 of those are going to work out. And it's even more so if I've got 3 top 10 picks, because if you look at the top 10, I'm expecting that guy to have a near Hall of Fame career. There is a very low chance I'm going to draft 3 guys that are going to have a near Hall of Fame career in one single draft. If so, I'm Ozzie Newsome or somebody like that. I'm just really, really good at what I do.
But in saying that, I don't use can't miss. But when you look at Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr., you're talking
They're
about
good.
guys who are going to have very long track records and who are,
Yep.
Are comped in a very, very small group of players that have come into the league over the last decade. And and then so it's like you feel like if those are 2 of them, you feel like I feel pretty good about having 2 pretty for sure things, and then let's see what happens with the third one. Either way, it's got to be a draft that makes them a watchable product. Right now, they're not watchable.
They are not watchable at all. That's the Bears. We'll talk about rookies in 1 second. A reminder, DJ Football presented by MyBookie.ag. Code next round when you sign up for MyBookie.ag. Get that sign-up bonus, 110% of your initial deposit there in MyBookie.ag. Use it right away, win it, and it's yours forever at MyBookie.ag. That is when you use code next round. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie.ag, code next round. Also, don't forget the clothing from Roback. They got the quarter zips, the soft hoodies, the golf shirts. We'll get you some. Roback.com, code TNR20 at checkout to save 20% of your first order. Roback.com, TNR20. They're awesome. You do need to try them if you haven't. I'm working on it. I'm working on it. Okay.
All right.
I'm working on it.
I figure I'll be breaking down. We're talking about Caleb Williams and his Hall of Fame career by the time that jacket shows up.
We'll get it. I promise. Let's talk about, he's a rookie. You mentioned CJ Stroud. When I was putting this together, he was 4th in the league in passing, and he just got passed barely by Matthew Stafford on the Monday night game. When we looked at this rookie class, I think, Bryce Young was obviously the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. You look back on it now, and everybody got so upset at that one play and that one win that cost Houston the number 1 pick. You never know when it might be a blessing in disguise. I'm certainly not giving up on Bryce Young. He's an immense talent. But, buddy, early on, CJ Stroud has looked the part as the Houston quarterback.
1,000%. He's taken all of the good parts of his game in terms of the ability as a passer and as a thrower. I said at the combine, it was the best combine throwing session that I'd ever seen with him. And it wasn't hyperbole. I wasn't caught in the moment. I've seen guys throw it harder. I've seen guys throw it farther. I've seen guys make more impressive throws on the run. I've never seen somebody just as pinpoint accurate as he was, with the desired velocity and the desired, trajectory on every single throw. Whatever it required, he delivered. And that's not something that's easy to do when you're throwing to a bunch of guys you don't know at the combine. So, and then you see him on the tape, you can see all these different types of throws. So as a thrower, very gifted. Now, the knock on him and the question was, when you get him under pressure, before we got to the Georgia game, there had been issues with him having to reset, move around, and deliver the ball accurately. Didn't have a lot of a playmaking gene to him so much. It was more just kind of on time and rhythm, execute the play as it's called, but didn't really play outside the bubbles very much. Then the Georgia game happens and he shows you can do all that stuff, which is a great reminder in scouting that if you do it once, we know you can do it. And so far early in this season, not only has he made all those throws, the fact he hasn't thrown a pick is evidence to the fact that there hasn't been a panic to his game. There's been a calmness and a poise. He's been able to navigate around the pocket, around some muddy areas. They're missing linemen. I think they're missing 3 linemen or something like that last week. So he's been able to make that happen. And it's been fun to not only watch his growth and development, but to see a guy in Tank Dell who looks like he could finally be making that tank prediction look good. It took us 3 weeks, Ryan, but we got there with a tank prediction.
What is Tanks for Nothing? What is the record of the fantasy team right now?
0-3. We're 0-3.
0-3.
We are
Yeah,
we're
rough
off to a
start.
rough spot. This is what happens.
You're-
I take guys 3 rounds too early, and then
Yep.
I'm a year too early. That's what happens.
You know where you are?
I'm just a year too early.
You're
I'm
a
a
3%.
3%er.
You're 0-3.
Yeah.
You got no shot at the playoffs now. You got no
That's
shot.
no. Well, I think this is a forgiving. I think it's 14 teams, 6
Okay.
make it.
Okay.
So is that
you
the
got
same
a chance,
odds
maybe.
as the?
Yeah.
It's a little bit better
Maybe
odds.
so.
Than,
Maybe so.
than
Yeah, a little better.
Yeah.
So, do I remember correct with CJ Stroud that the unnamed scouts talked about how maybe he didn't read defenses very well? He wasn't asked to do that as much in Ryan
Do you
Day's
remember?
offense.
Do you remember it was the S2 test?
Oh, that's right.
Remember
That's what
the
it was. Yeah.
S2 cognitive test.
Yeah.
And the scores, somebody leaked the scores, and he had a really low score. And so then that was a big storyline there for a few weeks in the run up to the draft. But yes, it's not a great testimony for the test at this point in time, the way he's played. Let's just put it that way. He's done quite well.
What a surprising outcome for them to go to Jacksonville and beat the Jags, who appear to definitely and probably still are the class of that division. Tennessee is awful. They can't score to save their life. Houston had looked like, it was just a rebuild, obviously, in D'Amico Ryan's first year. Jacksonville looked like the strength of that division. And for them to go in and beat them the way they did, that was a very impressive win.
Yeah, and it was not close. And the elephant in the room is that Trevor Lawrence is not playing very well this year on that side of things. So look at that draft. You had Trevor Lawrence, who's not off to a great start. Zach Wilson, who I can't imagine there's much more of him we're going to see. Trey Lance has already been traded. Justin Fields, you just mentioned, has got the lowest QBR in the league. And Mac Jones has just been okay. There's nothing. I don't think anybody in New England would say we've got our guy for the next 10 years. I don't think they're thinking that at all. So all the hype and buzz about that. Now, it was great because it gave us great ratings for that draft because we got a lot of guys we could talk about at the most important position. But so far, at least through this part of the year, the way that Trevor's playing, I think, has been pretty disappointing.
NFL is just such a funny game. It is so tight every Sunday because if I'm a Jacksonville fan, I go into Sunday thinking, hey, it's a good day for us, right? Tennessee's playing Cleveland. Cleveland's pretty good. Indianapolis is at Baltimore. They're going to lose up there. We'll be able to put some distance because we get Houston. We're not going to lose to Houston. All of a sudden, Indianapolis beats Baltimore. You lose to Houston, and you don't put any gap with anyone other than Tennessee.
Nope. It's going to be a competitive division, and I mean, you haven't even talked about Carolina yet. So as I mentioned in that first week, Carolina, one of the underrated NFC/AFC South teams.
Yeah, that division is pretty wild too, with Derek Carr going down in their game.
Tampa's still in a good spot.
I know.
I mean, that's a tough loss. They're still in a good spot.
Yeah, I mean, they're 2-1, and Baker Mayfield has played pretty well. Now, look, they were playing Philadelphia. They had their hands full with the Eagles. I don't think anybody expected anything differently in the Monday night game. Desmond Ridder has just not played well for Atlanta. I mean, they are so quarterback challenged. I mean, it is not outside the realm of possibility that Tampa wins that division. I mean, that would not be the craziest prediction you could make after 3 weeks.
No, I'd feel pretty good about it right now, to be honest with you. But I'll keep going back to the Kirk Cousins thing. Everybody says Cousins to the Jets. To me, Cousins to the Falcons is the one that I like.
Boy, it'd be a game changer. I mean, is there a possibility? Is there buzz in the league that could happen?
Nothing. No, the only buzz is taking place on DJ football here with me and Ryan. That's it.
I mean, it would be fantastic to see. I don't care. I mean,
unless they're hiding behind your fake brick wall. If they're behind that fake brick wall, then I know that there are people listening.
That's a real brick.
Give me a knock on that. Is that real? Give me a knock on that.
I don't want to scratch my knuckles. I mean, the Falcons are a quarterback away from being a really, really good team. And Kirk Cousins, I mean, the guy is leading the NFL in passing yardage. Could you imagine what he could do with all those weapons in Atlanta?
It'd be fun. It would be fun. Yeah, it'd be fun. Maybe it doesn't happen this year in terms of the trade, but that would be an interesting target in free agency. Yeah,
absolutely. Anybody you could get that could play quarterback there would be fun to watch. It is DJ Football in front of a real brick wall. We are presented by MyBookie.ag, code next round. MyBookie.ag, code next round. You get that sign-on bonus right now, 110% of your initial deposit right away. And you can use it right away at MyBookie.ag. That is when you use code next round. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie.ag, code next round. All right, last week we got DJ to rank his top 5 AFC teams. So this week we are going to do the same exercise in the NFC, coming off a night where Philadelphia went to Tampa, we were just talking about, and won on Monday Night Football and looked pretty good in doing it. Let's go 5-1 with your NFC top 5.
All right, let's go 5-1. I'm going to start first of all. We're going to stay in the North for 5 and 4. We're going to go with the Detroit Lions at number 5. I don't think that should be too big of a surprise. The expectations were big for them coming into the year. We talked a little bit earlier about Aiden Hutchinson, the way he's played early in the season. Their rookies have been great. Jack Campbell, the rookie linebacker out of Iowa, Brian Branch has been great as their nickel. If you look on the offensive side of the ball, Gibbs, Laporta, that's going to turn out to be a heck of a draft class for the Lions. They're going to end up meeting my number 4 team this week in a rematch from a game at the end of the year that the Lions won. So I'll go Green Bay 4, Ryan. I've got Green Bay 4. No, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The best game in the NFC this week. Bills Dolphins, the best game of the weekend. But that Thursday night Amazon Prime game matching Detroit and Green Bay, they're in Lambeau Field. It's the best NFC game of the weekend.
100%. And Jordan Love, big finish last week. So he keeps showing you that he's made of the right stuff. He can make every throw. He's now starting to be a little bit creative, buying time, extending plays, making things happen. Again, another team with a bunch of young guys. These two teams are positioned to dominate this division for a very long time with the youth that they have, and they're off to a great start. So I would go Detroit, then Green Bay. What you want to guess on number 3? What do you want to guess on number 3?
You're going to have Philadelphia and San Francisco as your top 2. I would have said Dallas, but Dallas just played poorly. Is it Dallas?
They did. It's Dallas. I'm going to give them a mulligan on the Arizona thing.
Okay.
They didn't play clean. They didn't play great. The yards were still there. They're still moving the ball up and down the field. They got popped a little bit in the run game defensively. They were, just had some gap discipline stuff that caught them. Don't love the fact that you lose a big time corner and Diggs to injury, but I still think when you stack up the rest of the NFC, I still think they got so much talent. They're going to be number 3, and then really the decision comes with San Francisco and Philly, how to sort that out. If you're telling me I push the fast forward button to when they meet and who I think will win that game, I would take Philadelphia. But if we're doing a power ranking, a true power ranking, where they are, what they've accomplished, what they've looked like this year, I would go San Francisco 1, Philadelphia 2. But to me, there are those two teams, and where we thought the Cowboys had joined that party, they've been uninvited. It is a 2-team conference, and they can sort out 3, 4, and 5. But that's the collision course we're all headed towards.
Just on offense, let's do this real quick on offense between San Francisco and Philadelphia. Philadelphia has the offensive line advantage. What would you say?
Check.
That
100%.
Okay, check. Tight end has got to go to San Francisco. It's good. Now Philadelphia ain't bad, but
I like Goddard, but I would take San Francisco.
All right, you take San Francisco. At wide receiver, Deebo Samuel will make him a wide receiver for purposes of this discussion, though he does a lot of different things. Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel. On the other side, you've got some pretty good wide receivers in Philadelphia there with Devontae Smith. AJ Brown. Where would you go there?
That one's a tough one. It's at the very, I might even just cheat it and say that one's a split. That's
okay. I'm fine with that.
Even there. Yeah,
I'm fine with that. All right, so running back Christian McCaffrey is obviously really, really good, but the way DeAndre Swift just played on Monday Night Football.
Yeah. Swift has been awesome, but I would say that is a product of the offensive line. When you go back, you would have had 68 yards rushing in that game, Ryan. He went well over 100 behind that group. So to me, Christian McCaffrey, you have a chance to play with either one of those guys. You take McCaffrey, especially what he does in the pass game as well. So I would give San Francisco the edge at running back.
And then at quarterback is good. He's never lost a regular season game. I get that, but I'm going to go Jalen Hurts here, though, right? Over Brock Purdy.
Be more scared of Jalen Hurts, absolutely. Yeah. And Jalen can play outside the play design as well. So he hasn't played as good so far this year. There was a miscommunication on one of those interceptions last night, but nonetheless, I think talent-wise, I would go with Jalen Hurts. So again, it's pretty even, man. I think that could be the difference offensively is the quarterback. Although Brock's played well, so it's very evenly matched.
Again, the guy's never lost a regular season game. I do anticipate that streak to come to an end at some point in our lifetime, that he will lose a regular season game. Would you agree with me on that?
Yeah, that's coming. I think it's going to come when they play. I think the Philadelphia matches up well with them. If you go on the other side of the ball, the defensive lines, you can make a case as a wash. They're both stacked. Linebackers is a decided edge for San Francisco. Secondary is I might lean towards San Francisco there as well. It's close. At the corners, I feel good about Philly. The safeties are still a little bit sketchy. They're a little shaky. So I think defensively, I might go a little bit San Francisco, offensively a little bit Philadelphia. It's going to be a heavyweight match, man. And they do legitimately hate each other. So that's what's fun.
Yeah, it's an excellent discussion because those two teams are built a lot alike and they play a lot alike, and they're both really, really good. They are very, very difficult outs for anybody in the NFC or the AFC for that matter. Whenever either one of those meets the Dolphins in the Super Bowl, it's going to be a really good game, I
think. Just keep Tua healthy. Let's just keep Tua healthy. Knock on wood, and then that's going to be a fun ride. I love the fact that you get another team to crash the party because it feels like it's been Cincinnati, Buffalo, KC for the last couple of years. We need somebody else to get in there.
They scored 70 points without Jalen Waddle even playing, DJ. Imagine if Waddle played. They might have scored 100.
They were trying to run the clock out, and they couldn't stop scoring.
I know. It was insane to watch. Like, Mike White comes in, and he finds Robbie Chosen wide open for a deep ball. I'm like,
so
what is even happening here?
The question then is, after watching what we've just said is the best offense in the NFL, do what they did to the Denver Broncos. Now, what is the gap between the best offense in the NFL and the worst offense in the NFL when the Bears play the Broncos this week? Like, how many points do the Bears put up on a team that just gave up 70?
If that game were in my backyard, I would ask them not to tear up my grass. I mean, can you imagine having to watch that? Can you imagine having to watch that game?
Whew. Oh. Yeah, not going to be. I almost picked it. I had to pick the games. I have my son and his buddies pick the games usually down at Baylor, but we were the only ones who picked the Broncos to beat the Dolphins last week. So I had to take the wheel back a little bit. So I make the picks this week, just a week suspension, and then I'll get him and his buddies back in the mix next week. But I almost picked the game to be like 13-13 because I was like, what could be the most weird game?
I mean, I was legitimately worried about the game. I mean, like, Waddle is out. Tyreek Hill had been a little bit banged up. Miami has been the story of the first 2 weeks. That offense has moved so well. I don't know. Shows you how the NFL is. It's completely unpredictable. I was legit worried about that game, and it's 42-13 before you can even think twice. Who knows?
It's crazy. It's a weird league, man.
It is. I love it. All right, another week is on the way. Starts Thursday night with Detroit at Green Bay. DJ Football presented by MyBookie.ag. Code next round. When you sign on at MyBookie.ag, get that sign-on bonus of 110%. Excuse me, 110%. I'm not adding anything for them. 110%. Still a great deal at MyBookie.ag. Code next round when you sign on to get 110% in your sign-on bonus there at MyBookie.ag for this week only when you use code next round. Also get all your plays at lanceslock.com. Red hot in football. And they've got weekly, daily, weekly, monthly, season-long packages, lanceslock.com and roback.com for our apparel. Code TNR20 at checkout to save 20%. All right, enjoy all the football, DJ. We'll see you next week.
See you, buddy.